Hey, it's Soul, and welcome back to another episode of Warcraft Weekly, and Merry freaking holiday, Christmas, something or other. This is the last weekly of the year. It's the second year, I guess, of what has been a trial. For a lot of us, this year has been different, to say the least, and even as we try to escape this first world problem that is video game discourse, many of us are encapsulated by what lies beyond the fourth wall, because let's face it, at the very least, in terms of public relations, World of Warcraft, its developer, and its publisher have never been in such a sorry state. Funny how at the start of the year our biggest worries were with the maw and the twisting corridors, lacking rewards. Oh, those were simpler times. Safe to say that Shadowlands as an expansion has struggled. The jury's still out, but there's no doubt it's somewhere towards the bottom of people's lists of favorite expansions, and of course, not everyone feels the same. Blizzard's reputation, on the other hand, has unquestionably tanked after the world learned of numerous allegations of sexual misconduct, and overnight the face of the company changed from "you think you do but you don't" to "I thought it was fine but it wasn't." Yesterday's heroes turned out to be far less than that, at best ignorant and at worst complicit of awful behavior that ruined careers or worse. Meanwhile, publisher Activision Blizzard has been taking tons of heat for their mishandling of the investigation, misleading investors, their alleged cover-up, and more. And just over the past month, seemingly normal practices in the industry faced massive social media backlash and a huge push to organize, with walkouts, an ongoing strike, and the start of a possible union inside one of the industry's largest publishers and developers. So it's been a bad year for the studio, and an awkward time to be a fan or a content creator. But you guys know me, I'm a glass half full and the other half of it is full of copium kind of guy. There's no denying that what we thought of as this Camelot of a game studio, it just turned out to be as vulnerable and compromised as any could be. They are not as exceptional. They're not as special. And now it's all laid bare, and it's also not over. Treating people like crap did not start in the 90s over at Blizzard. There's likely more bad behavior to uncover, and it's not going to end with a lawsuit, or throwing fruit on top of it, or firing Bobby Kotick, although that would just feel really good. We're in the middle of what I hope, because hopium, what I hope is a transformative period for not just Activision Blizzard, but for the gaming industry as a whole. Today, the video game industry is worth like $180 billion, and in less than 5 years, that number is going to balloon to an estimated $250 billion. And while this doesn't happen everywhere in the industry, there's a lot of people who are grossly underpaid, underappreciated, and or worse. Unions are the current gossip around town, but I'm not going to pretend that unionization is the answer, because frankly, we can't predict the future. But I'm not going to pretend that sweeping this all under the rug and going back to the status quo is going to do anything but bring us right back here. So far, this is what ABK workers want, and I'd rather feed that vehicle that is pushing for change, so long as it's just different. It seems that the people who run this industry will, more often than not, act according to their personal interests first, and then do the barest minimum to comply with human decency, aka, obeying the law, which also means to a degree that the laws too must change. The momentum for change does seem to be there. It's more noticeable compared to, say, Riot Games, or Ubisoft, or more recently Bungie. For a long time, Blizzard has been a beacon both gamers and developers paid attention to for their innovation and polish. In more recent years, though, that beacon has turned against the studio, magnifying every bit of bad press, from the cancellation of Titan, to the Blitzchung incident, to whatever Warcraft 3 Reforged was, to the events of 2021, all of it deserving of criticism, but Blizzard received an unusual amount of coverage because, gosh, look how far Blizz has fallen. People may have treated Blizzard like rock stars in the past. Today, they're being treated like out-of-control rock stars, but rock stars just the same, and that needs to stop. They're just people, folks. Since the middle of this year, folks in the industry from all over have done a lot to speak out on social media, not just anonymously, but very overtly against their employers, which once upon a time I thought they'd never do. These people no longer feel as alone or as afraid as before. They're angry, just like you and I, who really would rather just shut up and play video games and talk about the Mage Tower, which I will. Once upon a time, Blizzard games redefined genres and helped to forge new ones. They were at at the front of innovation, but no one can hold on to that forever. And I'd like to think that today we enjoy a very competitive industry full of the next Call of Duties and Battlefields and sequels and Skyrim and GTA 5 re-releases. And okay, maybe those are bad examples, but there's just a lot of great games to play. If the people at Activision Blizzard can stand their ground, if we support them in whichever way that we can, whether it's like donating to their strike fund or speaking out on social media, participating in discussions, or just, liking and retweeting posts, we might see this studio push the envelope once again. I mean, not in the way that they have before, but in a way that will once again cause ripples in the industry as the first AAA publisher that operates with a union. Now that's further down the line, but this year has just been really crappy. It hasn't been 100% doom and gloom though. WoW's patch 9.15 has been pretty effective, and I'll talk on 9.2 later, but so far it looks like we're in for a pretty strong offering. We got TBC Classic this year, we got the Season of Mastery just getting started, D2 Resurrected had a bumpy start, but it feels like it's a good delivery with bona fide updates on the way. Diablo 4 is getting quarterly updates, and the latest one looks like a real doozy for character progression. Hearthstone and Diablo 3, even Heroes of the Storm continues to march forward, and Overwatch, there's okay, I haven't been paying attention to Overwatch 2. There was a name change. Hey, I don't have a good transition to close out that really awkward recap, so let's just move on to our first world problem, starting with the Mage Tower. We're on week 3 of the tower with one more to go, and funny enough, TBC Timewalking is supposed to happen next week. Will it? Don't know, but I want to share some bullet point feedback, and I'll try to be brief after spending many minutes with all of those feel-good platitudes. After all the hotfixes, the Mage Tower feels more balanced. This is based mostly on hearsay, obviously, but at least speaking personally, I did complete the Protection, the Holy, and the Retribution Paladin challenges, and if you know my content, you know that I don't know Holy or Ret at all. And Horrific Visions didn't count. Breath of the Dying was super clutch, okay? I'm gonna take a stab at it and say that the 9.15 Mage Tower feels tuned around roughly early patch 7.2.5, which is when the two Mercer gears opened. The Mage Tower challenges, like almost anything in an MMO, boil down to 3 things: gear, skill with your class, and experience with the encounter. The more you have of some, the less you need of others. So for example, I beat the tank challenge in about 30 pulls thanks to my prior experience and skill. Now I did use some gear, but not much at all, and with a bit more practice I probably would have been able to do it without any extra gear at all. The Holy and the Ret challenges, different story. I totally threw down for like the good gear and the consumables or whatever I could afford, and I kept throwing myself at the fights to learn them, but I have no idea how the class works anyway. The secret, I think, not really looking at videos or guides. Learning through each attempt gave me the encounter experience that I needed as opposed to following an instruction manual. Although frankly, like I said, I'm gonna feel like a fish out of water if you ask me to DPS or heal outside of the Mage Tower. Looking at it from the outside, prepping for the Mage Tower has proved to be like rocket fuel for the player economy. For every couple of players griping over the cost of consumables or gems or enchants, there's a few crafters laughing their way to the bank. So isn't this what people ask for when it comes to making old content like old professions relevant? Part of me thinks that all this FOMO talk is a conspiracy concocted by big crafting, shaming people into feeling like they need to complete these challenges now or else, driving up demand and making huge profits out of it. But I think it's been really cool to see community reactions like this as well. It's very MMO, it's very RPG, and we can choose how to participate in it, including to not participate at all. Nothing gained, nothing lost. Although you really should check your bank. You might be sitting on like millions of gold worth of product. With that said though, after having 3 weeks worth of Mage Tower so far and another Timewalking event next week, of course we've got to revisit the frequency of this event. 18 weeks between Mage Tower attempts is way too long, and here's why. It's way too long. I don't buy into the FOMO argument. The Mage Tower is as FOMO as like the trial of style, but it is long enough to wait that it's hard to get excited over when it finally comes. But having it up all the time doesn't seem right either. Now, personal opinion, it wouldn't feel like an event anymore. Like, it would just be a thing to do, like island expeditions, how those are just a thing that we can now take for granted. Winter's Veil doesn't happen year-round. I mean, it doesn't have to, because eventually we're going to complete it all. just like the Mage Tower. Permanent uptime throws a sort of wet blanket on the Mage Tower economy as well. Like, instead of a predictable schedule of peaks and valleys, competition is just going to keep driving prices lower and lower, which might sound good until gatherers stop caring and they stop bothering to gather, which will make the prices rise back up, but supply will probably remain unreliable. And let's keep in mind, I'm just speculating here. But the way I see it, why not just have the Mage Tower up for every Timewalking event, which would mean every 3 weeks? It's not too short, it's not too long of a wait, it's plenty of time for gatherers and crafters to restock for the next round, but it's not too much time that the markets would get saturated. I'm aware that my interests are more with the economy than the individual person who just wants to score those wins, I get it, but I wanted to bring to light how a feature like the Mage Tower can do a lot to inject life into an MMORPG in somewhat unexpected ways. And now I gotta give you an update on patch 9.2, Zereth Mortis the Zone, and Flying. Quick recap, this right here is the cipher of the first ones. A recent build indicated that we might have to fully max out this whole page of perks. Fortunately, I was wrong. Yes! Like, we only need to have 1 point in each of these perks per column or whatever, which will still take a few weeks, but it's going to involve much less farming. When it comes to concerns though, that's small potatoes though. Like, this week, I explored all of Zereth Mortis with the help of L-Plague, who unlocked Flight in the PTR, and I made liberal use of Farsight, thank you OP Shaman. What I found, or what I actually didn't find, was very distressing. Here's a map. You see these islands over here in the corner? Yeah. There's actually nothing there. It's just rock formations and nothing more. But let's be open-minded about this though. Over to the east by the raid is a lot more raid that normally wouldn't or shouldn't be visible. Also, beyond the borders of the zone are like lots of incomplete assets and, well, just junk left behind because, hey, PTR. I still predict a patch release around late February or early March, so there's still plenty of time for a big build that either updates the zone to include these new areas on the map or to just, well, unfortunately, redo the map. Obviously, I prefer more landmass to explore and to fly to. The cipher is meant to enable more zone exploration. I would figure that Flight would be a part of that. But if Zereth Mortis is limited to this single landmass, I've got to wonder two things. Like, one, why hold back on flying? And two, why have flying at all? Let me make it clear that I know I'm coming from a position of confusion. We don't have all the information yet. Things can change, and they clearly have, which is why I'm revisiting this topic yet again. If we need to unlock the first level of every perk to unlock flying, that's going to take a bit more time, but once I do, is there a very strong incentive for me to continue working on this research thing beyond my compulsion to complete a thing? Not really. There are buffs and movement speed perks and unlockables that feel impactful up to the point where I'll be able to fly. And then a lot of the perks here become an afterthought because, well, I can just fly. I could say, hey, there needs to be better perks that feel relevant even when flying, but I could also say that without flying at all, these perks will have meaning. But you don't want me to say that, do you? Here's my hope for Zereth Mortis, that the real endgame of that zone, farming for pets and pet crafting materials, makes one almost need to max out this tree even after earning Flight. Imagine a rare that pops out and you get there first, only to get blasted because you didn't activate some buffs or whip out your pet. That's the sort of tactile communication that I'd like to see more of in the game. And that's the show, I guess. It's been quite a year. At the risk of repeating myself, I'd be lying if I said the year was all sunshine and puppies. I'd be lying if I said that nothing good happened. One thing is for sure, I am excited and I'm anxious for what's in store for next year. 9.2 is going to be here in the first quarter of the new year. Probably. Orbiting that date, probably a WoW expansion announcement. The real question is, if it is announced, if a new expansion is announced, can it launch within the year? Because there's negative doubt in my mind that 10.0 is in some early stage of production. Meanwhile, the pandemic is unfortunately still very much in play, meaning we may be looking at a full WoW expansion made from home, which includes possible delays or the scaling back of content that could or would be. There's so much more to that though, because it's a WoW expansion planned around it being made from home, meaning hopefully less cut content. It's a WoW expansion made in the wake of the Blizzard lawsuit, the shifting of leadership leadership, the culture shift, the push for unionization, and a lot more. Is this going to be the time for World of Warcraft, the Fruitinine? No, probably not. But we are going to see a WoW expansion that takes time to reflect the reassessment of values inside Blizzard, like inclusivity and acceptance maybe. Is the WoW team going to continue the trend of separating progression and solo content like in Shadowlands? If there's only one prediction to make, like if there's one hill that I'm going to die on, it's that World of Warcraft is going to lift the faction divide. Whether it's a 9.2.5 patch or the 10.0, it's going to happen, and kind of soon. Now, I'd love to have player housing too, don't get me wrong, but this is a stance that I'll fight for even harder, and I will tell opponents of it that they're wrong because they are. But it's Christmas, so for now, I'll just invite you to share your predictions for 2020. Is there anything on your WoW expansion wish list, like launch date predictions? Will Kotick still be CEO, or will he dissolve Blizzard out of spite? Who else is going to be invited to the council? Because I've counted 34 individual posters so far, and well, there's room for more. I couldn't think of a great way to close this out today, except to extend my thanks to all of you who continue to visit, whether you're here to stay up to date on WoW stuff, or if you're here to see how the hot dumpster fire is burning, you're always welcome. As for 2022 plans, I want to try and distract myself a little bit less with the latest corporate drama and do just more fun WoW stuff, like little features on top of my usual helpful add-on videos and guides and reminders and other gaming adventures as they cross my path. You can expect a reminder video on Monday, but beyond that, I'm going to go dark until the new year to reset and relax and probably watch my little video game family harvest bodies and send robotic slaves to crush their enemies so they can harvest them too. Fun. A big warm hug to the Twitch chat peoples and the patrons who help keep this channel running. To my amazing wife who lets me indulge in my dream. And of course, to all of you, the fellow creators and the viewers and the commenters and of course, the absent friends. Have a safe holiday, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Until next time, folks, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.